it is about this year, but 2023 is kicking my ass. I'm sick again. I don't have corona, but I really feel like I got a cold and then it brought all of those corona symptoms back. I don't know, have any of y'all experienced that? So I had corona about a month ago and now I'm sick again. It's 2023 and it's basically nearly spring, at least weather-wise. It feels so good out, but I feel like crap. So what a great opportunity to do something that is purely just for fun and do the next episode of the Throwdown. I think let's do it.
This week, the judges would like you to make a pair of hanging planters.
Now, these are going to be hanging from above, so we want your planters to have a statement finial underneath. Now, these don't have to look identical, but we want them to look like an obvious set.
We'd like you to choose how you hang them. That could be lugs or holes in the planter walls, but it needs to be practical. Otherwise, your planters won't hang properly.
And the trade description people will be after you. You have 6 hours to make and refine your hanging planters. Potters get potting.
So we are on to episode number 4, which is the Reiku episode. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that I can't actually do the Reiku because I don't have access to a Reiku kiln. I've actually never done Reiku before. I've never had an opportunity to do that. So if you happen to be in the Ulm area and you have access to a Reiku kiln, like, hit me up. But otherwise, I think we can still do the challenge, and I'm going to take this opportunity to just do whatever the hell I want because the decorations in the clay, it's all gonna look different from how it looks in the show, the effects that you're gonna get. So I'm just going to use some fun clay, which I call my reclaim clay. This is my fun clay. And it's all of the little reclaim experimentations that I've done. So sometimes I've just been mixing the clay together. Sometimes I'm adding a little bit of this and that, like stain or iron oxide into the clay, just to give myself an additional clay color. And I really love these gray ones. I don't actually have enough clay, I think, from an individual bag that is gray. Like I have a bunch of red clays, and like this iron rich clays. Anyway, what I want to do is mix these 3 clays together, just because I don't have enough clay of any individual for this whole project, and I want the clay to look homogeneous. I don't want to make one planter one color and one planter a different color, although that might look kind of cool, but I do want them to match. So I'm mixing these 2 colors together. And I also have some random white leftovers here that I'm just gonna add a little more clay to the whole thing. So let's talk about the design. I'm going for planters that are going to look like hanging snakes. Okay, so I really love snakes. I just think they're beautiful animals. I have a little tattoo going up my arm. And I was also really inspired by the guy who made the chicken heads. The one thing that I felt was kind of weird about them, and they made this joke in the show, is that they look like dead hanging chickens. I think we can do him one step better though, by making these snakes kind of like whoosh, come down a little bit more twisty than he had. So a little bit more body to them, and they're gonna look like they're kind of dripping down from whatever plant is on top. I think that would look really cool. So I'm going to start the timer. They have 6 hours to build, and just like all the other videos I've done in these challenges, I'm actually going to split these 6 hours over at least 2 days, maybe even 3 days, just because I don't have a drying room. So if you guys aren't potters yourselves, you might not know, but you need to let the pottery dry before you can trim them and start adding these attachments. And I don't have a drying room, so that's just like physically impossible for me to do. So I'm going to just let them dry out overnight and then do the attachments. So that's what we're doing. 6 hours starting now. So the first thing that we need to do is wedge these clays together. Should we make it wider? Or do we rather want it to be deep? I think deeper is better, probably for the plant, but also for the snake shape that we're making. No, I think it's good. I think it's good. I feel like we need to give it some spirally thing going on. This is always high risk. I think it's good. I don't want to do any more than that. Also, I'm scared. Okay, one pot down. Now, arguably the trickier part, which is getting them to match. I'm going to try and get them to match as much as possible, but I think, we'll see how it goes. Basically identical. This one was, for some reason, so much more of a struggle than the other one. It's 15, so it's the right height by 17 or 17 and a half. In the grand scheme of things, 1 centimeter difference is not going to make a difference, so we're gonna say it's good enough. It's the right shape, even though I struggled with it a little bit. Why is the first one always easy? Do they look the same or what? So I'm happy with these, but what I'm really worried about is that the snakes are just gonna look stuck on. I mean, like, if this is my planter, I don't want it to kind of like have a weird angle that goes into the snake. I want it to gently like become the snake, if you know what I mean. And because I don't want the snake to be too thick, I need to kind of like slope this into the snake. So I was thinking that I should actually throw an additional part of this, which is going to be like a cone shape, and then that part will become the snake. You know what I mean? And then I'll just sculpt the snake with that. I'll probably cut a hole in this so that it's like, basically I'm lengthening the planter and making it more narrow towards the bottom so it can have a really smooth going into the snake. So I already measured these. These are, if you've never used these before, these are calipers, and they're really handy for measuring the width of something like this that I couldn't get my ruler in. These are 10 centimeters at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just throw a pot probably upside down that is narrow at the bottom and wide at the top, so it can do that. All right, I've explained this enough. You know what the hell I'm talking about. So I just grabbed 500 grams of clay for this. I don't know if that's the right amount, but we'll see. What is better, throwing it right side up or upside down? I guess right side up. Or we could do some cool like overlapping. Would that be fun? I think I want it to go straight in. That's fine. I don't need any of this down here. But I'm gonna keep it. I don't need any of this down here, but I'm gonna keep it just to support this guy for now, because it's quite narrow at the bottom. It's way more narrow on the inside than it is on the outside, so I'm gonna actually trim off a lot. It's probably 1.5 centimeters wide on the inside, so maybe it'll be like 2 to 3 centimeters wide. That should be good for adding a snake. These are gonna be quite long in the end. Guess that's okay. Yeah, but I'm gonna add a spiral again so it matches. Hopefully it matches well. Okay, so our pieces are thrown. Now I do need to let them dry. So I'm going to let them dry out overnight. It's 4 already. Okay, we are 40 minutes in. It's 5 hours and 21 minutes left. So I'm gonna pause this now. So because it's already the evening, I'm just going to let these dry out overnight, and then tomorrow morning, I'll probably flip them. And maybe by tomorrow afternoon or evening, we can start trimming. If not, I'll just wait till the next day. Basically, I want the bottoms to dry. Always with trimming, you need to flip them as quickly as you can. And these guys in particular, because I'm going to be manipulating the clay a lot in order to make my snakes. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Now I've got to clean up. This is one thing that annoys me about the show, is that they never show the cleanup. So I'm not going to deduct that from my time, although it is gonna take me a while. See you tomorrow. All right, friends, it's 2 days later. It's snowing out, and we're gonna finish up these planters. So I let them dry out overnight, and then yesterday I flipped them, and I let them dry out for a little bit, and then eventually I wrapped them in plastic because the rims were quite dried out, whereas the bottoms were wet still. And although I wanted the bottoms to dry out, I didn't want the rims to dry out anymore. So what the plastic does is it basically equalizes all the moisture inside of the plastic. Okay. Something like this. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is trim them. So I'll head over to the wheel and then attach them, and then we add the snakes. That's the plan. So I think I've been puzzling over how to connect these two. And I think the way to make the most seamless transition is to actually add some clay along this bottom here. So I think we're gonna do this in 2 steps. First, attach these together. Add a coil along here, start sculpting the snake, and then we'll let that chill for a little bit, like under plastic, so it all kind of homogenizes and becomes one. And then I'll go back in and trim / smooth out the coil and add the details to the snake. Because I wanna add a coil here, but then I wanna trim it back so it actually looks like one piece. So I think I need to, add the coil and then trim it back. Wondering if I also wanna add some detail along the bottom here. Like originally I was thinking it would be nice to have like a ring around the bottom, like a thicker rim that will complement like the rope coming through. So I could add that now too. Let's do one and then we make a decision. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired now. And the snow has turned into rain. I'm thinking these look really good. I'm very glad I added the rim to them. So what I'm going to do now, like what makes me nervous about this whole thing right now is that we have leather hard clay, wet clay, leather hard clay, wet clay. Like there's all these different statuses of clay inside of here. And so I want to definitely wrap this up and let it homogenize. At least 24 hours. But before we do that, I'm going to add the snake because that's going to be more wet clay. And so I can start making like the basic outline of the snake while it's still quite wet. And then I'll add the details when it's all leather hard and homogenized. So I've never sculpted a snake before, so we're gonna see how that goes. I guess I'll just start with one. So I think I'm going to just make a thick coil to start with, and let me see, maybe I use this one as a guide. So we're at 422 now, so that whole process of trimming took about an hour. Plenty of time left. The show is so much about sculpting and I'm like so not a sculptor. But it's fun. I mean, it's really fun to try sculpting. It's just not something that I really ever did. Thinking this looks a bit like a snake? The The question is, should the snake have fangs? Like, should it open its mouth or should it not? Like, you have to imagine this upside down. This is his eyes here. His eyes are gonna be here and he's creeping down. So how do we make, oh, damn it. Squished him a little bit. He's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. Snake eyes. I think I should make them before I attach him. I realized that there's one snake that's slightly bigger than the other one. This one is slightly bigger than this one. So I'm going to pair it with, I believe this planter is just a touch larger than this one, so I'm gonna pair it with this one. In the end, I don't want these to be exactly the same. I'm going to also like sculpt the snakes to hopefully look a little bit different from one another. So the idea is that they'll complement each other. They're not going to be identical. So I think I'm gonna start with the little snake. While I was sculpting these guys, I did have them wrapped in plastic, so I'm really nervous about cracking. I'm nervous about cracking along the edges where I'm attaching things. So that's why I'm adding some water. Don't fall. Shit. Oh. I squished my snake. It's fine. We can smooth him out. It's fine. Okay, I'm gonna prepare a coil. Maybe I should have, like part of me wants to keep the snake straight up while I attach it, like while it's wet, so it's gonna balance itself better, but I don't want to have to do that tomorrow after it's sort of solidified. So I'm just gonna stick my boy on again. I am also gonna add some texture to this too, so it doesn't need to be perfect. I did purchase some matte black glaze because even though I can't Reiku these pieces, I was really inspired by the colors that they made from the Reiku process. So this is like bending too much. So I was thinking I could just use a matte black glaze to get sort of like the oxidation effect that they get. I mean, it's not gonna be the same at all, but matte black would look cool here. I'll do some samples of it first, of course, because I'm not gonna trust these babies on a new glaze, but if that fails, I can also just use a glossy black. I already have a glossy black that I could use. I also have a green glaze that's always gorgeous to use, so let's see. He's definitely bending way more than I want him to, so I think I need to like dry him while he's propped up somehow. I need to rig up something. Oh, come on, you. Just want one. Why are you all attached to each other? Oh, shit. Yeah, he looked like, I want him to look like he's just like coming down like that. So I think that that's the right angle. Okay, well, I guess this one's done for today. And then we will finish up with the details. So last night, I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, panicked that these would not fit in my kiln. Because I don't know if you've seen my videos before, but you may or may not know that I have a little baby kiln. And although it's 40 centimeters wide, but only 35 centimeters tall. And I wasn't sure that these were under 35 centimeters. And actually, when I was laying in bed debating whether or not I would come down here and check, I was actually thinking it was more like a foot, so like 30 centimeters. So I came down to check because I just could not sleep thinking that these wouldn't fit. This one's a little bit taller. Exactly 34 centimeters. 34 centimeters, so there's 1 centimeter clearance with this guy to fit in the kiln. I'm okay with that. I did realize that I'm going to have to fire them separately, which is a bummer and a major waste of energy. But this is the kiln I'm stuck with for now until y'all buy all my products, and then I can buy a new one. But I can't afford it right now. So I'm just really relieved. Like, I truly thought, I was like laying in bed like, do I shorten the snakes or do I shorten the rim? And luckily I don't have to do either, but in case you're wondering what it's like to be a potter, it's waking up in the middle of the night and worrying about your kiln firing, because that's truly what it is. Okay, so let's finish these guys today. I think it's more or less homogenized. What I need to do first is trim off this like extra, and I'm wondering, should I put it on the wheel or should I just hand trim it? Because let's just take this off for a second. Ooh, we need to smooth this out for sure. This is looking a bit awkward. I'm worried if I put it on the wheel, the centrifugal force on the snake head is gonna do crazy things. So I think I'm just gonna play it safe and just hand trim them. That means on like my banding wheel. So the plan for today is to finish these, and that entails cleaning up this connection here, smoothing this all out, and then also adding some sort of texture. So I have a few different tools that I want to experiment on. Basically, I want to stamp a scale texture into at least the snake part. I'm not sure how high up I'll go, probably not very far, because I do like how this looks just all flowy like this. In terms of our time, we've got 3:05 hours left, which we're not gonna need this much. Am I just a quick potter, or are my projects not ambitious enough? Is the whole rushing at the end completely fake? I know some of y'all have told me that the rushing at the end is completely fake. I know that they can do that, and I don't know how, but my editing is not that good, but they can somehow make it look like everyone's rushing at the end, even when it's not. I find these timelines to be fully manageable. Now, maybe it gets harder towards the end, but we're already on challenge number 4, and it's still we're still coming in way under time. So I don't want to jinx it. I mean, but 3 hours, I can't imagine this taking 3 hours, maybe 1.5. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to start the timer now though. So to scrape instead of smooth with a rib, all you have to do is just hold your rib at 90 degrees from the side where you're scraping it. So I'm working with my right hand at 3 o'clock, the Spark clock. I'm at 3 o'clock and I'm holding it at a right angle. Make sense? If you do that, it will scrape instead of just smooth. If you do it like this, it will smooth. I'm pretty happy with this. I slowly reduced the amount of scales as it went down, and I think it's gonna look cool. It'll look more homogeneous when there's a glaze on it. And so I used this tool for adding the scales, and because the body of the planter is a little bit drier than the actual snake, it sort of made the scales automatically a little bit softer and lighter as I pushed them down, so it kind of just like helped with that whole process. And then I went ahead and added some holes so I can rope it up. And I think this guy is pretty much done. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one now, and then I guess they're ready to dry and get fired. I'm definitely gonna slow dry them though, because there is still some inconsistency in the moisture levels, so it does make me a little nervous. Let's see. My planters turned out awesome. Okay, there's a little bit of cracking on the inside where I attached the two pieces together, but it's fine, it's the inside. As long as that doesn't translate to the outside, I'm happy. I was trying to decide how to glaze these guys because, as I mentioned, I don't have access to a Reiku oven. So I decided to try and find myself a black matte glaze because that would look sort of like Reiku because, you know, it's matte and it's not shiny. I do have a shiny black, but I'm not a huge fan of the shiny. And I bought this new matte black, but I'm like really worried about this because one thing that I always preach to people is that you should not, you know, use a brand new glaze on a piece that you love. I did make testers to make sure that the glaze actually is, you know, the right color and everything, but I haven't put it on a vessel yet, and glazes do interact a little bit differently when you put them on a larger piece. So all I have are these testers, and these testers, they look actually, it looks really awesome. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do, I have a couple of other things that I need to glaze as well today. So what I could do is glaze one of them in this matte black and then glaze the other things and just fire one at a time. So I think I'm gonna glaze one as like a tester piece, and if it looks awful, at least I haven't destroyed both of them. This is my logic. Yeah. The other issue is that this is the size glaze bucket that I have for these. So it's gonna be a little difficult. I'm going to try to pour the glaze over the pot. So let's try and get this done. Let's see. I have to kind of figure out how I'm gonna. They also have a really good weight to them. I think this one feels so light and it's just like perfect. So I think I'm gonna try and do that one second. And this one that's a little bit heavier will be my tester piece. Although this is the bigger one. Ah, whatever. I just glazed a bit of the outside and then I realized, oh, I should have actually glazed the inside first. So always glaze the inside first. I know that, but I didn't do it. Okay, so this chaos is why you glaze the inside first. I mean, this is all going to be one color, so it doesn't really matter on this piece, but if you were gonna do a different color on the inside versus the outside, then you could wipe this off. But this is gonna be one color, it's fine. And so I obviously can't fire these guys right side up, so I decided I'm gonna fire them upside down. I mean, that's really the only option. So I am going to remove the glaze from the rim, and it might be a cool detail, or it might just not even be visible because these are going to be hanging above eye level. So yeah, that's why I'm removing the glaze from the rim. Guys, I think I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's exactly right. It's exactly how I wanted it to be. There's a little sheen to it that you wouldn't get with the Reiku, but I knew that from the samples. So the samples were actually really true to how it turned out. It's actually a little bit bluer than the samples, which I don't mind at all. I think I'm going to go ahead and glaze the other one with this exact same glaze. And then we can figure out what plant we're gonna put into it. I love them. I have to say, I think this is the first time in this series, it is the first time in this series that these turned out exactly how I envisioned them in my head. Like, including the glaze, which is a new glaze that I've never tested before. I mean, I made a small tester, but I've never used this glaze before. This is crazy. I'm super happy with these. Yeah. So I got this plant from the hardware store. It's, I don't know what these are called, but I was envisioning this plant when I was making these. I have one upstairs as well. And I decided to buy only one because look at this guy, he's already rooting. I don't know, can you see? He's already rooting here. So what I'm gonna do is just pop him in some fresh soil and water him a lot, and I'm hoping that he roots. Like, this is actually a root here. And I don't wanna put too big of a plant in these guys because they're not actually that big of planters. So I was thinking I could balance them in here. Ooh. Yeah. They do still look like menstrual cups. I'm okay with that. I'm happy I did add the rim because I think it adds a lot, but it does make it look like a menstrual cup. So I've got some soil. I'm not a plant expert by any means, but this soil said it was for green houseplants, so that's the stuff I bought. I was also thinking, one thing that I find really annoying about hanging planters is that watering them, because you can't put a drainage hole in them because obviously then it's gonna drip all over the place. So there's a tendency to overwater them. So what I was thinking, have you guys heard of these things called ulas? They're like self-watering little things. Like you put them inside and you only bisque the ceramic and then it slowly soaks out. Like the plant will develop its root around the bisque. You fill up the ula, I might not be pronouncing that correctly, and the plant just like sucks out what water it needs. So I'm thinking about making one of those. And I could make it for a video if y'all are interested. Let me know. So I hope this type of plant is the type that I can just directly plant and not soak in some water. So for The string, I was looking through my string collection, and the one that I like the color best is this one because I do kind of just want the string to disappear, but it's quite thin, so I think I'm gonna like double or triple it up. Maybe I should just braid it. I have no idea how tall it needs to be. Okay, so I have all my little strings, my little braids here. They are about this long, doubled. So I'm just gonna string them through. Oh, the soil line might be a little high, but it's gonna settle once I water it. It's too tall for me. Ta-da! Snake, snake. Okay, so let's go hang these up. Peanut is so upset that I'm coming into her quiet living room to hang some planters. It's so cold in this house. We turned our heat off way too early. I don't know for sure if this is going to be the final resting place for these guys, but for now, I thought we'd try it here. See how I like it. So I think they're not exactly straight. I need to mess around with this hanging system a little bit, but I am really happy with them. I think they look super cool, and I like the dark color against the lightness of the sky and the windows and everything. Like, it's like kind of a cool contrast. Yeah, and overall, I'm just like super happy with how this project went. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is actually the 4th throwdown video that I've made, so definitely check out the other ones if you like this kind of challenge format. I'm going to keep doing them. I've already started the next video, so stay tuned for that. As always, if you have any comments or questions or videos that you want to see, you can leave them down below in the comments, or you can always DM me on Instagram. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, friends.